What's up YouTube, James Wedmore here, and today in this video I'm going to share with you the absolute most important topic that you need to have mastered to successfully grow your business. And it's a topic that almost no one is talking about. So stay tuned.
You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast. Today's episode is part 2 in our series entitled Down to Business, where we're going to help you increase your profit margins the fastest, easiest ways.
So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and with 13 years online, I've built my business to over $9 million in sales per year. And this is the first non-business business podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of spirituality, energy, and mindset to create true and lasting success, all from the inside out. This is the Mind Your Business podcast.
What's up, you guys? James here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just finished recording an episode of the Mind Your Business podcast for a very special series that we're doing called Down to Business. And we're talking about a few key issues that I think are absolutely pertinent and relevant to anyone who actually wants to run a thriving business and isn't stuck in a hamster wheel or survival mode. These are the things that don't get talked about, right? These are the things that are not really sexy. It's not talking about some new flashy, Instagram tactic or way to turn your computer into an instant ATM machine or anything like that. This is how to actually run a business. And this specifically is a conversation about maximizing your profit margin by understanding how to manage your expenses. Being in business for 15 years, I have noticed the trend, the theme in myself, and I had to learn these lessons myself, and I had to learn them the hard way, but I noticed them in our clients that there are certain types of expenses that creep up on you as a threat. They threaten your profit margin, they threaten your health, they threaten your sanity, and if they're not in check and managed properly, you're gonna be in big doo-doo, and I don't want that happening for you. So we just wrapped up this powerful episode that lays out some of the biggest expense threats to your business, how to mitigate those threats, how to grow a thriving business, not on a shoestring budget, but on a manageable budget so that you can increase that profit margin. And if these are things that you are trying to avoid, because they are unsexy, if these are things that you think are not important, then trust me, they're gonna become very important fast when you discover that you've been working your tail off and you have no money left over. You're losing money. I don't want that to happen to you, and this episode is here to prevent that. So if you're watching this YouTube premiere live in real time with us, make sure to comment as much as possible so we can hear from you. What are your biggest takeaways? What are your biggest insights? Also, if you have any questions, my team and I are here to answer them, so feel free to put them in the chat. And if you're watching the replay, do the same thing, and we will make sure to get to them as soon as possible. And I'm gonna encourage you to stay to the end. When you stay to the end, you're not only gonna get a free gift from me that's gonna help you grow your business, but we're also gonna have some live time to do a bonus additional Q&A that you're not gonna wanna miss. So I'll see you there.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? James Wedmore here.
And I'm Jilly Cedeno.
And this is the Mind Your Business podcast, where we help you think like a successful entrepreneur so you can experience having a successful business. And this is a brand spanking new segment we've created here for you on the show called Down to Business. If you haven't tuned into our first episode in the series of Down to Business that we aired last week, I would highly recommend that you go and check that one out first. It lays out some very powerful distinctions and really gets to the bottom of so many things that are preventing people from running a healthy business.
If you did listen to it, check in with yourself. How did the last week go for you? Did you, pay attention to where you're spending time as a CEO or the personal brand? And how did that work for you?
We want to help you increase your profit margin. More money! And one of the easiest ways that we can do that is start looking at the expense side of the business. We said in the last episode, if you're at a 30 to even up to as high as 50% profit margin, that's really fantastic and that's really healthy. These are generalizations, but if you are a digital product only business and you have like razor thin to no profit margins, there's no excuse. As long as you're making any money at all at 10,000 or more, then no matter how much or little revenue is coming in, there is a way for you to be profitable at that level. what then happens is someone says, James, I made $100,000 last year, but I didn't keep any money. We had no profit. So this year I'm going to go make $200,000. Great. So what you're setting yourself up for is a $200,000 business with no profit margin. You're working harder and you might be making more, but you're not keeping anything. So you have to fix the problem that's in front of you right now, which is a profit problem. The only reason we would encourage you to make the goal is just do what you did again profitably, is that it's going to force you to fix the problem that only gets bigger at each level. Having a profit problem at 100,000 is not the same level of problem as it is at 1 million or 2 million. Encourage somebody to say, before you go jump into double revenue next year, let's make a goal of doing 100,000 again while being profitable. And then, yes, we can add revenue on top of that. But again, if you have a bunch of leaky holes and you're not plugging the holes and you think just more money is going to solve the profit problem, it won't. We created a metric called Energon Cube. And an Energon Cube is a measurement of time, effort, and energy. So there's 2 tasks that might take the same amount of time, like reading a book and like lifting and carrying furniture. They both take an hour, and one expends a lot more energy and you probably wouldn't want to do it, but like you might want to have a day of just reading, and if you really enjoy what you're doing, you're relaxing. So it's more time but less energy. So an Energon Cube is a combination of time and energy. And so we made an argument that doing a launch takes a certain amount of Energon Cubes. Let's say it's 10. You decide what one single unit Energon Cube really looks like and feels like. So you do a launch and it takes 10 Energon Cubes. And then we showed people how we did 2 launches, which was 20 Energon Cubes.
Yep.
And those 2 launches generated less revenue combined than one launch done the next year. And the point is when you go do that thing that's going to generate revenue, it will take a certain amount of Energon Cubes. But when you can do less and find ways to make more, now we're talking, baby. Part of the problem is when people say like my business isn't profitable is that they don't know how to read their numbers properly. And that's a big one right there. It's like, yeah, we were profitable and then we took that profit and reinvested it. And now it's going to be an ROI expense, which we're going to get into. So first of all, we have, we're not the CPAs and all that type of stuff. I give that disclaimer. So first off, we have fixed costs. Now defined, these are business costs that are constant and not variable. Let's look at something like Kajabi. Kajabi is what we use to host our programs and manage our members. We use it for a few other things, and I think it starts at like $150 to $200 a month. We'll get into that as an example that where like people go, that's too expensive, right? And I think that's one of the dumbest things you're thinking right now because people don't know the alternative. There are certain things that are worth the investment and certain things that aren't, because when we talk about Energon Cubes, where we have to factor in time and effort into the expense equation. In other words, if you're trying to save money in one area, but it costs you tons of time later, then that is irresponsible business practice. Your time is money. And that's something we won't talk about in this episode, but I would highly encourage you to know and figure out your hourly rate. And if you're one of our listeners and your hourly rate isn't at least at $500 an hour, it's time to start it at least there. If you're sitting there going, paying $200 a month to run my entire business on Kajabi and I want to have a $500,000 a year business, but I don't want to pay $200 a month, the alternative is I go learn a bunch of free software that has bad support, breaks down, needs updates, needs plugins, got to connect all these pieces together. They all got to talk to each other. And if one thing's changed, it breaks down and I got to go spend all the time learning it, figuring it out, solving it and reacting to it.
Explaining to my team how everything works and connects together.
And then them getting confused and needing a ton of training on it. Then you haven't factored in the time expense, the energy expense. And we used to do all that stuff. I used to have custom programmers. I used to have WordPress. I used to have all the plugins and all the fancy frills. And you have no idea how much my business got streamlined, simplified, and exploded when we just went to sites like Kajabi and just used all-in-one simple. It was about how do we use something that's simple and works versus trying to be all the things, have all the things, when 90% of that stuff really doesn't matter anyways. And that's a fixed cost. So whatever we pay, it's fixed, which means every month, whether we sell stuff or not, whether we have customers or not, we're going to expect that same cost. Okay. So that means the more you grow, the more profit margin happens because that stays the same. And that brings us to a really important distinction that I've never really heard anyone talk about, but I talked about this. We had our good buddy Mel Abraham. He's talked about this on the podcast before and in our masterminds, which is labeling ROI expenses. An ROI expense is an expense I catalog that I will directly or maybe a little indirectly, if I spend more here, will make more. And the obvious first go-to is something like Facebook ads. You know, and that's a funny thing too, when people say I can't afford Facebook ads. I'm like, you can't afford a Facebook ads because you haven't been spending money on Facebook ads.
Right.
If you had a broken slot machine in Las Vegas where every time you put in $1, it spit out $2, you wouldn't sit there and say, I don't have enough money to put in this slot machine. Variable cost. CPL versus EPL. EPL, earnings per lead. LTV, lifetime customer value. Payroll, having a great team. Paid advertising. We don't do budgets. What we do is thresholds. The affiliate commissions. Leadership and training, 3 to 4x multiplier.
An A player versus a freelancer.
A player distinction. The secret to a great business, it's going to be your biggest threat to profit because it'll be your highest expense. Thank you so much for listening. We have more.
Yep.
We're going to go into...
We're just getting started.
Once we plug the holes, how do we bring in more money
Yes.
in scalable ways that doesn't take more of you? We're going to start talking about some more of the operational things that you don't hear too often as well, because it's all about right now, when we look under the hood, what do we see? And I want to see the most perfect, impressive, lean and mean machine under there. Here's to your business machine and your success this year and beyond. I'm James Wedmore.
And I'm Jilly Cedeno.
And thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
All right, well, if you're watching this far, that means that you consumed that entire episode, which means you must have seen the value that it had for you. And I want to continue providing that value for you. You'll see up on the screen, we have a link to watch our other videos in our series of the Down to Business series that we're running on the podcast, all designed to help you step into the right role in your business, be the actual CEO, even if that's not a sexy title. I think it's pretty sexy, and ways that you can start increasing revenue and profit margin on the front end as well. These are powerful episodes to listen to. Make sure to do that. And if you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button below this video now, because I got more juicy episodes coming your way. Plus, if you're someone that feels rather new to business and you're in that phase of where the heck do I begin? I'm so overwhelmed. We've put together a brand new training course for you called Your First 100 Leads. You know, the reality is until a sale is made in your business, you're not really in business. But you can't really get a sale without a lead. And a lead is just someone who's raised their hand to say, I'm interested in working with you. So if you don't have leads, it's gonna be really, really hard to get the sale. So I wanna help you get your first 100 leads. We have a lot of people that say that this course should be called Your First 1,000 Leads because they grow their list quicker and more effectively with the right type of qualified buyers in the shortest amount of time possible. We have a very different counterintuitive way of thinking about list building, and I'm gonna show it to you in this course. Now here's the best part about this course, it's absolutely free. This is a course I could charge $200 to $300 for. It's yours absolutely free. It's packed full of step-by-step training to help you get your first 100 leads. Click the link in or around this video to get access to that course for free right now. I'll see you in the next one.